Hi, my name's Kathy Millett, and this week we're looking at rushes, the dead straw-like sort you find at the end of edge of a river, very much like this or like this. So as always, we're looking at the real world first, best place to start when you're modelling. Here are some pictures of reeds. You get that kind of dead feel. Some have got flower heads on, some of them are just banks of reeds. And of course, they're not just along the water. You can put them along roads or anywhere else where you have deep banks that you want to fill with something dead and dry. I'm going to show you a very quick method for filling up a corner. I'm going to use it for this corner here. And it involves using this Busch Grainfield and Reeds. It's HO 7375 and it comes like this, and I've used it a bit, but it's very simple to use. You literally put it out and glue it on. And it gives a slightly drier look than you might have got with some of the others, and we can sort that in a bit if we want with paint. But in the meanwhile, I'm just going to cover the edge of my shoreline, coming round in a bit of a session, and I'm just going to spread that out. Here we go. We want it right down to the shoreline. Now you can do this with any long grass product at all. And all you do literally is find a bit where you've already started. You can pull them out, and these are actually attached. They're quite solid, so you can pull them out in a chunk. See? And they're all attached to each other, so they don't tend to come out, and you can literally just glue them in place right up to the edge of the water, and they're quite tall. Now my only worry is I think that's too tall, and I always end up thinking it's too tall everywhere that I do this, just something about the height. So I get a pair of scissors and I just snip them off. Here we go. And I suppose actually we could probably use those bits in a minute. So, and then you just glue it in place like this, and the edges will fall off and over, and I'll often put something like my tweezers along the back just to keep them pointing upright. The trick with this is to keep the first set upright, and then the later sets will all rest against it. Here we go. And then you can actually put these, and this is how you're supposed to use them. These ones have got the base to them, so they do tend to stick together a bit better. The only thing is, I do find they're a bit blunt now. So, break off another piece, pull them out. So I'm just pushing them from the bottom up, get this, and then, oops, we'll just put in the next set, which is going to be about here. You can do them different heights, and don't worry if they don't all stick or you don't think they're all in the right place, because we'll remove some of them in a minute when it glue's dried. So there we go. And you can use all sorts of materials for this, paint brushes, spring to mind. I think a lot of people use whatever's to hand. I happen to have bought these years ago and I've stuck with them ever since. So once you've got the first set in, the rest just follow the same. I tended to put the blunt ones towards the left so that they sat in a bank and I could trim them later. And the feathery ones, which is the top, the natural top as the product comes out, on the right. And yeah, they do wobble and they do fall over a bit, but just keep putting them upright and eventually prop them up with some bottles and pots. I'm going to let it dry, and then I'm going to see when it's dried what it looks like and pull out all the spare stuff. In the meanwhile, I'm going to make sure all these bits here that I dropped all over the place, I'm going to keep, because they're incredibly useful and you can use them elsewhere. You can use them in your static grass applicator, like a knock applicator, or you can use them anywhere that you fancy. We're also going to put a few of these in and try them in a diorama where we're going to add some water to see how it creeps along the base. So I'm just basically going to repeat that, but here. And I'm not going to put many in, and just put a little splodge there. what we're going to do is we're just going to pull out this section here, and at the back I'm going to cut it in an angle. So I've got a variety of different sizes. So at the back I'm going to have this one, and then these ones I'm now going to just whatever back up and put them together. If you have a hot glue applicator, this kind of product would be ideal because it sets really quickly and you wouldn't have the worry that I've got here of trying to prop them up. Okay, so these have been drying for a couple of hours. Just rescue all my bits and do the old-fashioned thing of just turning everything upside down and shaking. Not obviously something you can do on your layout, but something you can easily enough do in other places, and these ones have just stuck in the hole. Yeah, it's going to come out. Yes, there we go. So we've got a few. And just tease out any that we don't think. I sometimes think we make our clouds a bit too dense. So there we go. There we go. So to clean this one up, just tip it on its side. And there's quite a lot, as you can see. You don't want to keep them in, and I think we end up with them too sparse. Oops. I'll glue those ones back in again in a minute. I suspect they weren't touching the bottom. So the very last thing I want to do on my reeds is just take some of these flat tops and make them a little bit more random, because let's face it, nature's never that flat. So pair of nail scissors, nothing particularly exciting, and just a little bit of snipping up and down just to give it a bit of variety. And it does create a bit of a mess, but you want it quite vertical, so you snip a few at a time. Whoops. And every now and then you realise you didn't quite glue some as well as perhaps you could have. Now some of these you can see a lot more brushy topped. They're the ones that I already used from the top of the packet, and the top of the packet came with this nice shredded top. But the bottom of the packet, where I'd snipped off these top ones, that's where you've got these really blunt ended ones. They're just a bit, they just look too heavy still. Get them from a variety of different angles. You can see where they need to blend in a bit. Better to do it a little bit at a time and end up with a bald patch. So here's the final diorama where we added some resin, and you can see here's the reeds. It's crept a little bit up, but I don't think it's crept up too badly. So I'm not unhappy with the final result. In this week's episode, there's some deadly rushes. On the dark continent, or is it the dining room, the mini Cathy's encountered the rushes. Oh, well, I finally got out the resin last week. I didn't even leave a dent, it just closed right back up where it got out. But there's a little hole in the scum where I was, so let's just hope she doesn't notice that. But here we go, right. Rushes. Another exciting adventure of the mini Cathy's. Rushes. Is this what the fuss is all about? Little girl Cathy said the rushes were alive, that they might eat us. I think she's in a bad mood because she fell in yesterday and I laughed at her. I didn't mean to laugh, but it was so funny with her on the back doing the beetle impression. Beetle, beetle. And well, it's been quite an emotional week, really, you know, with the I can't talk about it. I mean, the Busch incident really spooked me. I can't look at them. Do you think there's something about them? I mean, they're not doing very much, but Girl Scout Cathy said they were deadly. Just the wind. Just the wind outside. That's what it is. I'm not getting what all the fuss is about. I mean, I know N Scout Cathy had a moment with the Busch, and maybe it did move and trap her, but frankly I think she just fell over and got her foot caught. I know Mill Scale Cathy fell in. I mean, who falls in resin? Duh! It's gonna be sticky at first, especially when it takes a long time to set. But her Mill Scale Cathy trying to scare me over these rushes, I'm not being scared. Well, I hope you're enjoying this week's episode. If you are, subscribe to me on YouTube or on my website, kathymillett.co.uk. Alternatively, like me on Facebook, Kathy Millett Modelling.